Nearly live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole meeting, February the 8th, 2022 at 9 a.m. in council chambers. We will first of all have the approval of the agenda, and I'm assuming there are no late items. No, thank you. Could we have thank you? Councillor Bennett, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. The adoption of the minutes, and that would be for January the 25th, 2022. There's someone, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you. And today we have a couple of staff reports, and the first one will be the corporate services quarterly report, and that would be Mrs. Hilson.
Thank you. So the Corporate Services Department is reporting for the fourth quarter, which is October 1st to December 31st. The Corporate Services Department is encompassed with legislative responsibilities for the corporate officer under the community charter, main reception duties, land issues, human resources, victim services, transit, insurance, contracts, administration, leases, occupational health and safety, bylaw enforcement, and records management. So regulatory in the fourth quarter, there was 8 bylaws passed that were adopted. So the animal control licensing amendment bylaw, the municipal ticket information amendment bylaw, the sewer fees amendment bylaw, sewer connection, and the council procedure amendment bylaw were some of the ones that were adopted in the fourth quarter. Council also amended the respectful workplace discrimination, bullying, and harassment policy, HR 013. Virtual and in-person public hearing for zoning amendment number 1085-140 was adopted, or pardon me, we had a public hearing for that, and that was on December 7th. Council appointed Councillor Bennett to the Destination of Solis Board for the term commencing November 23rd and expiring at the 2023 Destination of Solis AGM. Council appointed Councillor Harvey to the Okanagan Regional Library Board, and Councillor Bennett was named to the alternate. And Council also passed the resolution for the 2022 acting mayor appointment from January to October of 2022. Other news for administrative for the Corporate Services Department was that Council approved the notice of the regular committee and of the whole and select standing committee meeting dates for 2022. Council consented on behalf of the electors of the town of Vesuvius for 2 bylaw for the regional district. One was for the noxious weed control service established amendment bylaw, and the other was for the nuisance control service established amendment bylaw. Corporate Services Department received 4 freedom of information requests in the fourth quarter. In total, in 2021, there were 14 freedom of information requests. In December of 2020, the Deputy Corporate Officer and the Corporate Services Administrative Support provided training for new hires. And this encompassed the training for the town's records management system, website, and website training. Staff will be developing a training program and potentially coordinating quarterly meetings with frontline staff for 2022. Council can also see the number of statistics that our frontline corporate admin support staff has with members of the public, both in person and on the telephone. The corporate service admin support also supports the bylaw enforcement officers in processing municipal tickets. Land issues, Council awarded the contract for the waste scale and associated site works and report structures in the fourth quarter. They also awarded the contract for Desert Park RV site upgrades to Anders Construction in the fourth quarter. And the Ministry of Municipal Affairs confirmed the boundary extension for the town of Vesuvius created 2 new letters patent, one for the RDOS and one for the town of Vesuvius. So that was 5 properties on 87th Street and 3 properties on Lakeshore Drive. Human Resources. The Director of Corporate Services posted 9 postings in the fourth quarter. Highlights were the Community Service Assistant, Corporate Services Admin Support, Planning and Development Services Admin Support, Building Inspector, Senior Accounting Clerk. There were interviews held for the following positions. Community programmer Ellie Trainer was a successful applicant. Community services assistant Lauren Chasky was a successful applicant. Bylaw enforcement officers Grace Elvick and Rick Tyle were the successful applicants. Temporary full-time service clerk was Dania Carrier. Planning and Development Services admin support was Claudia Lenz. Relief recreation facilities attendant Justin Fry was a successful applicant, and relief staff Nancy Summerfield was the successful applicant. And Bryn Evans was the successful applicant for the utility operator. In the fourth quarter at the December meeting, Mayor McCordoff recognized the following staff members for their service and commitment to the residents of the community. Jim Zackel, who's the Director of Financial Services with 20 years of service. Neil Paget, Senior Building Inspector, had 15 years of service. Dave Steen, Water and Wastewater Operator, had 15 years of service. Sarah Dennison had 15 years of service, and she's a Community Program Supervisor. Merlin Wimmer, the Maintenance Worker, 15 years of service. John Laura, Utility Person with 10 years of service, and Amy Robinson, Deputy Corporate Officer, 5 years of service. Congratulations to Phyllis Polkashko, who gave her notice to retire in December of 2021. She was a long-term employee who worked both in the financial services and relief clerk for the corporate services department. Amy Robinson started as a deputy corporate officer on October 4th, and Grace Elvick started as a full-time bylaw enforcement officer on December 13th. The director worked with the town's occupational health and safety consultant in organizing safety training software, and developing the town's communicable disease exposure control plan. Staff did receive training in December on fall protection, working alone, and the town's communicable disease exposure control program and working alone. The stats for victim services are below. In the fourth quarter, the town reopened one claim, which has been forwarded to MIADC, who handles all claims for the town. In December as well, council accepted the Municipal Insurance Association's bid for our property insurance from December 31st, 2021 to December 24th, 2024. So leases and agreements, council approved the lease with BC's junior hockey team for 1 year. They approved the leases with PenMac, the Sirius Model Aviation Club, and Wine Country Racing for January 1st to December 31st. And they also approved a 1 year extension that expires December 31st, 2022 for Fire and Mutual Aid. There's also stats from October 2021 as bylaw enforcement started reporting to corporate services. And so in summary, the corporate services department consisted of the director of corporate services, the deputy corporate officer, corporate services admin support, and the bylaw enforcement officer during the fourth quarter. And we've been busy answering customer inquiries, responding to complaints, working on leases and agreements, bylaws, and working with other departments with their needs. And I just want to thank Amy, Mark, and Grace for a great fourth quarter.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hilson. It certainly looks like you've been busy dealing with a lot of personnel issues mostly, trying to make sure that all our jobs are covered. So good, thank you so much. Council, does anybody have any questions or comments to Mrs. Hilson? No? Well, very on. You're doing a good job. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Chief Portmeyer from giving us a quarterly report on the fire department. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am submitting my report for October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter saw us with approximately 56 emergency callouts, placing our year-end total just at 273 calls. The fourth quarter saw us really busy responding to an abnormal temperature fluctuation within the town of Osoyoos, which meant that a number of properties were challenged with fire suppression systems, which equated almost 80% of false calls or false alarm calls during that time period. The other thing is throughout that entire year of 273 callouts, we maintained an average response of 6 minutes and 20 seconds, which means that we have met the standard of at least 10 minutes for 80% of our calls. So that's some really good news for insurance and their underwriting. Also, we had a number of training topics covered that included bringing people from the exterior in to our crews to get some friendly reminders on elevator rescue, for example, or low angle technical rope rescue. We covered just over 60 topics, and a total of 548 personnel hours were completed to undertake those training and education opportunities. We're still training 3 hours every Wednesday from 7 until 10. And it seems that it's going to be the model moving into 2022. It allows us to get as much time getting the skills and necessary requirements for the paid on call firefighters, since we're only meeting once a week for those training nights. So during that time, Chief McCaskill completed his Fire Officer 1 and 2 certification, which is really good news. Public education, we saw a number of visits to the elementary school to provide fire and life safety education in that fourth quarter. And overall, I think we engaged just under 60 students. And the Osoyoos Secondary's grade 10 education class came into our fire hall. And what we focused on is some public education surrounding fitness levels and those requirements for jobs. So it's a nice reminder that the high school students can be reminded that if they go into locations such as military, firefighting, or police services, that they have to maintain some sort of fitness level. So COVID-19 still impacted some of the fire prevention and training. Some people are still reluctant to have off-site personnel coming into schools for education and or fire inspections. Moving on to fire inspections, there's a total of identified properties, around 267 inspectable properties in the town of Osoyoos, where in that fourth quarter, we did 59 of those inspections to a total of 102 to date. There was a number of items that were classified as kind of unsatisfactory, and we're working with the proponents or the agents in charge of those businesses to make sure that they're complying with the BC Fire Code. The fourth quarter also, it came up to the very end that the budget might have been skewed just because of the call volume. The call volume that we experienced this year and the length and the duration of such events like the wildfire has placed a number of personnel hours out of skew than normal. A couple of unforeseen circumstances that we weren't able to gauge in 2020 moving forward with the budget. In summary, we were really busy for the 2021 year. The only thing that I can say is that the dedication and commitments that we have with our paid on call firefighters is absolutely amazing. They continue to surprise me for their levels of commitment and for what they're willing to place on the line for the town of Osoyoos. That's my report as respectfully submitted to Mayor and Council.
Thank you, and I'm certainly happy to see that we have a good number of, of local people in town that are willing to help with the fire department. And I certainly think that public education into the schools and coming down to the park there on Saturday mornings for those were important. And I think that it helps people understand why they should pay attention to all of the things. So thank you very much, Chief. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Anything they want to ask the chief about? Well, we hope it's a quieter year next year. There's no guarantee, of course, but it would be.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I believe that is everything that we had on the agenda today. So, Oh, so I have to say that,
Yeah.
okay, pardon me, I missed that part, of course. So we are going to move this meeting into in camera. And so pursuant to section 91E of the community charter, the council meeting is closed to the public as the subject matter relates to the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. The council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Do we need a motion to do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor.